Well, remember back to the good old days. Or remember the good old days maybe we've seen on TV. The good old days when everybody you knew was kind of a Christian or went to church. Or at least knew what thought Christians were pretty decent. Where maybe stores were closed on Sunday, so everybody could go to church. Or where the big scandal was you raised your Lutheran daughter and she announced, I'm going to marry a Methodist. Or maybe even a Catholic. Oh, saints preserve us. Or a pastor could show up at a scene of an emergency, a wreck or a fire or something, and it had a bumper sticker that said clergy, and the police would say, yeah, go right in. And then they'd probably say, what's a clergy? Things are different. That world, it just doesn't work that way anymore, does it? I'm not sure that it ever really did, but there's this sort of romantic thing we have going on. Because the church is changing. The world is changing. The role of Christianity in it, the role of Christians in it, is changing. And there are a lot of snapbacks, a lot of figures, a lot of ideas out there. But some of them that I just came across are, in the last 10 years, church attendance has declined by 7%. That's a big chunk. 60% of all millennial kids are not in church. 85% of churches are plateaued to going down. We're not one of them, by the way, but most of them are. And even the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we've lost in the last 10 years 16% of all our population. It's declined by 25% in California. Why is that? What's going on that's causing this big shift in Christianity, in our church culture? What's that? The world, yes. That's good. That's a question, and it shouldn't be a rhetorical question. It should be a real question. What's going on in the world, Carol?
They are going away from God.
They are?
Of God.
Why is that?
I really don't know.
Well, good, because I'm going to answer part of that for you, too. There are a lot of people who would say, when this started? It was that age of Aquarius time. All those hippies back in the 60s. The tune in, turn on, drop out, the hippie driving the VW microbus with the flowers on. I know some of you may have been part of that. I was only like 9 when Nixon was elected, so I don't have to take credit for a lot of that. But a lot of people say that was kind of the turning point, the 60s. And it's easy to look at that because that was such a revolutionary time. But I'm reading a book that's really interesting by a guy named Rod Dreher who's thinking about this stuff. And he says, when you look at history, there are kind of 5 major things that have happened over the thinking of Western culture and European American thought that kind of changed us. And they start in the 1300s, not in the 1960s. Back in the 1300s, we went from, we don't understand the world, so we listen to the psalmist who says the heavens declare the glory of God. We went from that to, we can declare the glory of God. We don't have to just rely on nature to do that. That was a beginning step away from God. Then in the 1500s, we had the Renaissance. And the Renaissance people are doing scientific experiments all over the place, trying to create all this new information, exploring, a really exciting time. And we went from glory is in God's creation to glory is our exploration. We stepped a little further away from God. Glory is a little bit more about us. In the 1700s, people started that century with what St. Augustine said. He said, we We believe in order to understand. In other words, you have to understand God, and then you can understand the world. And guys like Thomas Jefferson said, no, we can understand the world just by looking at the science, just by looking at what's happening. We don't need this God stuff. We can see just the facts. That was a difference. In the 1800s, we had this big industrial revolution, and it was a mess. People were going to these big factories in the cities, and they were getting killed. They were getting just abused. They were turned into machines. People thought, people are basically good when they live out of the farm. People are good. They go to these cities and they become evil. Good isn't something or bad. Sin isn't something we have in us. It's something that's given to us by our environment. We stepped a little further away from God. And in the 20th century, the century I talked about, we really kind of get to the point where we said, happiness is not being connected with God. Happiness is not service above self. Happiness is serving self. Happiness is about me taking care of me. So you can see this is a 700-year process of continuing to reject and change who God is. From God being primary and in charge of the world He gave us, to we being primary, to us determining how the world is going to look for our reasons. And so, of course, Christianity is going to suffer in that. I mean, why have to listen to a God who's in charge when I can be in charge? I like that better. So none of us remember those good old days. None of us remember how it used to be. And it started not in the year 1300, but it really started with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve ate the apple. Sin came into the world, and we began this process. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy. We began this process of entropy, which is the process of things automatically slow down. Things automatically fall apart. Things automatically die. Right? Nothing lives forever. Nothing lasts forever. Entropy is part of just the way the world works. A nuclear physicist said, he said, any system is given to decay very quickly. All the material in the world should have turned into a cloud of chaotic dust long ago. But then this physicist said, wow, I did it. Maybe there is a God holding it all together. Because things are naturally decaying. Mountains and animals and factories and countries and cultures and life and churches, all of it is falling apart little by little. And one of the things that's falling apart is our influence in the world. It's the influence of Christians in the world. It used to be bigger, now it's smaller. It's just part of how the world works. But Ecclesiastes, that book of wisdom, says there is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot. We've all been living with our church culture in a world where Christianity was kind of the dominant thing in the culture that kind of hung us all together. We've all been living in a time to plant, all of us. It's been that way for a couple hundred years. But maybe God is shifting that. Maybe God's shifting from we're living in a time to plant to we're living in a time to scatter. Maybe he's changing the way that Christians used to gather together in these buildings and do our thing, and he's going to send us out into the world to be dispersed. He's done that before. He did it out in the Israelites in exile. But whatever it is, whatever God's plan is, we don't know what it is. Entropy is a part of the world that's falling apart, and God is not part of that. He is a God who brings together. He is a God who holds things together. He tells Jeremiah, I will gather my flock out of where I've driven them, and I'll bring them back to their fold. There's this Hebrew word fold called davah, and it means, it would be used for like a meadow for sheep, or for a country for people, or the proper place. God will bring his people back to their proper place where they belong. And he's done this in the past. He did it with Noah. He brought Noah's family together to be in the place they belong, where he was with them on that ark to save them. He brought the people out of Egypt to be in that place in the desert with him so he could be with them. He brought the apostles together with Jesus so that Jesus could teach them their role in the world. He brought the church together for hundreds of years to be a place to carry on his word so we have it today because the church was brought together and did their job. He brings us together at St. Paul to be poured into as disciples, to find our place in the world. That's what he does. Throughout history, God has gathered his people together and then scattered them, but he has always been with them. He has always given them community. He has always been pulling them toward him. And he continues to do that. Because God is a God who keeps his family together and feeds them. He promises to gather his flock. You know, we live in we live adjacent to a weird part of the world. So we don't live in Silicon Valley, but we're close to it. Silicon Valley is kind of a strange place. Anybody worked there or grew up there? I did. Brad, I know you kind of did. You've been Newark.
My son lives there now.
You have a son who lives there now. Is he weird? No comment. I want to. I withdraw the question. No, my brothers live there.
He's different.
He's different, yeah. Well, you know, it's just a different place. It really is. And they have tons of money. And money does that. I grew up there. I'm not there anymore. So one of the fads right now in Silicon Valley is chicken coops. See, that whole culture over there is so disconnected from agriculture, which is like normal here, but over there it's really disconnected from that. And so there's a sense of kind of getting back to our roots, getting back. They used to be agricultural, but they're kind of getting back. So chicken coops are kind of a big thing over there. But when you have $1 bazillion in Google stock, you don't go down to Home Depot and buy a $99 chicken coop. No, you have them custom made. So these chicken coops are now these elegant, custom built with indoor plumbing and mood lighting and music. I mean, these things are like elaborate chicken mansions. So these chickens, and they buy these chickens that are $1,000 chickens, you know, they're prized, they have rainbow feathers or whatever. So they're buying these chickens and chicken mansions to create eggs to eat their omelets. So if you're one of these chickens living in one of these mansions, and your boss loses his job, which happens all the time, or they move to Texas or something. Imagine being a chicken. Day one, you're in this mansion with mood lighting and YouTube videos playing, and the next day you're scratching around the backyard trying to find a worm to eat. I'm sure those chickens said, "What the heck happened?" They're still the same chickens. They're still able to create eggs so people can have omelets. But it just doesn't seem the same. We have become chickens very accustomed to a luxurious abode, haven't we? We've been living in a time when everybody has big churches, and where churches are popular, and those days are numbered. And it doesn't matter whether we're here, or it doesn't matter if we're in some hovel somewhere, or in somebody's living room. We are still the same Christians, in the same family, pulled together by the same God. And it doesn't matter whether we're here or in some other location, he is still pouring into us so that we can feed the world. So that what we produce is what they're looking for. And they don't even know it. We become accustomed to this chicken mansion. But we may not always be here. Because God is in the business of feeding his people so they can feed the world. Here or there. And he will gather us together and he will continue to feed us, to pour into us, so we can do that. That is who he is. That is who we are. That is what we can count on from him. That is the good news.